Good evening. Welcome to the Danvers Conservation Commission meeting for January 14th, 2021. We operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After each applicant on our agenda presents his or her request and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project, we will accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and address first. Some words of caution. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all other meeting attendees. This includes members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, property owners, and project applicants. We also request that you confine your questions to the project only as it pertains to the Wetlands Act and our jurisdiction. We cannot handle, nor do we have jurisdiction regarding such things as noise or traffic. All problems not related to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Danvers Wetlands Protection Bylaw must be taken up with separate boards. Moving forward, I'm going to have a roll call. Members of the board, Vanessa Curran.
Here.
Michael Splain.
Present.
Ann McGill.
Here.
Chelsea King. Our understanding is that Chelsea has been detained and will be joining us a little later. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Georgia Pendergast.
Present.
David Fields.
Present.
And we have Alicia on here, but I don't think she's with us. Is that right, Georgia?
Alicia's not joining tonight.
Okay. So now the anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond that you are here. For 21 Ingersoll Street, it's Steve King.
Steve King here.
For 26 Grandview, Peter Blaisdell. 188 Elliott Street, Chris Broyles.
Chris should be here shortly, but Mike Capichetti is also here from radio.
Okay. 18 Congress and 11 Harvard Ave, David Cowell.
We're still waiting for Dave Cowell, but I'm here on behalf as well. Ryan.
Okay, Ryan. 42 Brookside Ave, Bill Manuel.
Bill Manuel's here.
I also saw Hayden Warren's name on the screen too. Okay.
Correct.
17 Dartmouth Street, Jason Leonard.
I am here.
And David Cowell. Okay, we'll move forward. First of all, just everyone should mute their microphones just so we're not having any echoing, please. Good evening. This open meeting of the Danvers Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the Governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening remotely via the WebEx app, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting minutes. Supporting materials have been provided to members of this body and will be shown during this transmission. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posting agenda unless I note otherwise. some basic ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, we have to remind ourselves that we have to be clear conduct of business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the list of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Moving to the agenda, the first item is a notice of intent for 21 Ingersoll Street, DEP file number 14-13. And Georgia, can you just fill us in with the DEP number?
Yes, the DEP file number is 1358.
58. Okay, and who is here to represent the applicant, which is the town of Danvers?
Hi, good evening, Chair. My name is Stephen King, the town engineer for the Department of Public Works for the town of Danvers. I'm here tonight to present the project at the Endicott Park, where we'll be rehabbing a fishing pier. Also with us tonight are two volunteers who will be assisting me with the construction of the fishing pier and rehab of it, Zach and Glenn. If you guys want to introduce yourself, so you can wave them over there in the corner. And I'll just invite them to say a little bit about why they offered to aid in assisting us with the town with doing the reconstruction of the fishing pier.
Thank you. My name's Zach Zolides. I'm in Troop 58 of Danvers, and I've been doing scouts since I was in 4th grade. I've been ranking up through the years, and I'm on Life Scout, which is second to the last rank of Eagle. And for one of the requirements is the Eagle Project, which is using leadership skills to have your troop serve the town in some way. So when I heard about the fish dock being rebuilt, I thought that was a good idea. And I also like fishing a lot, so I thought it fit like a good motive.
Hi, I'm Glenn Zolads. I'm his dad. I'm helping out.
Yes, we were very lucky to get the assistance. It's going to be a big assistance for us. For the construction, we were also given a grant from DCR as well in order to go provide the engineering and the consulting costs that we would incur, and also some of the other work that I'm going to be showing you shortly over the plans. I think, Georgia, do I have share capabilities now?
Yes, you do.
I'm going to try and bring it. Can everybody see the drawing, the cover page?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can see that. Steve, do you want to open it up full page?
That's the way it's opening up in my. There we go. I'll have to go document through document to get it bigger. Here's the here's a general overview of the site area. This is the Goodnoe Pond that's located in Danvers at the Endicott Cedar Park. Here's the entryway coming off of Forest Street. Ingersoll is over here to the lower left-hand corner of the map. So we have an existing wooden deck. It's roughly 7.5 feet by 9 feet in dimensions. It barely overhangs the existing Goodnoe Pond. It's also not ADA compliant. The railings need to be adjusted to meet that criteria as well for anybody who has any accessibility issues with fishing, potentially in a wheelchair. So Chris Sanborn, who's the Director of Natural Resources, we asked that I get involved in the project and help do a redesign and retrofit of the existing wooden deck fishing pier to bring it up to code for ADA compliance, and also potentially expand it out into the pond so that people may be able to cast outside the actual shoreline and actually get into the deeper part of the waters. Here you see a picture of the existing deck. You see some heavy erosion on the edge of it that we're also proposing to repair with some infill and some coil rolls that we've used in previous projects in the town. And you can see the deck. It's got existing 2 footings, sonotubes with concrete footings, your typical 4x4s, and your typical decking construction like you would on a normal residential deck. Some of the railings are splintered and are missing along the edge of here, and as you can see, they're all at that standard 42-inch height, which is inaccessible for ADA compliance and MAAB compliance as well. Here's another picture looking out to the pond. There's some signage that we're going to be removing and replacing. Some curbing will be eliminating from the entryway into the fishing dock. And again, there's some erosion that's happened because of offsite runoff that we plan to repair just using natural landscape infill materials, soil coir logs, and grass plantings. Oh, I need to do that. I'll be moving on to the proposed site improvements. Do a plan view look first. The expansion of the deck roughly brings it up to 200 square feet, just over 200 square feet. We're almost going to be reshaping the existing 9 by 7 foot, 7.5 foot initial entryway onto the deck, and then expanding it just over 17 feet in section over the pond. Obviously to give us some more clearance room for people walking in and off of the deck, and then for people, and also setting up some spacing requirements that we'll need for wheelchair accessibility on the platform as well. The hatch area you see along the hedge here, that is the typical square footage of what we intend to repair based on the erosion that you saw in the previous pictures. We'll have to reevaluate this actual area. It's those pictures were taken in early spring of 2020. I don't see this expanding much more than what it is shown now, but it should capture all the erosion that's taken place in the area. Some light grading in here as well. Here's the basic deck overview. of what we plan to install with the help of Glenn and Zach. Your typical construction of a wood decking. Right now, I'm intending to use what's existing for footings, which are sonotubes with concrete. I've also looked into utilizing helical piles, which would be less intrusive than the sonotubes. Still working on a few prices for that. So that may come into play as something that is a better option for us as far as less affected on the area instead of doing the sonotubes. So we're going to be adding in an additional 6 footings for the expansion of the deck. As you can see, we'll have a section of ballast that will be lowered to the ADA height, roughly 38 inches. And then around the surrounding area, it will be 42 inches railing height. Typical timber construction, pressure treated wood. We intend to have a work area outside of the buffer zone when we're doing all our cutting and disposal of the existing wood material, and then we'll hand walk everything in as we install it when the project gets going. And here's just some other elements of we'd be seeing a perspective of the deck and just the construction of it. Wood decking, the ballast, railings, the footings, and the sonotubes to support the extension of the fishing pier. And then on the last sheet, general notes and details of how we're going to construct the wood railings to make them ADA compliant, and then the joist connections and the rafter connections. So at this point, I'll open up to any questions from the commission.
Okay, I'll start. First of all, the footings as you extend the deck out, I'm presuming they're going to be underwater. How are you going to prepare the hole for the sonotubes?
Well, the sonotubes, we're gonna have to write that into the specifications. I'm really hoping to avoid using that and going with helical piles, which get extended out with a rig, and they go right into the ground, and you don't have to avoid using the sonotubes. So I initially did the design based on what's existing. There are nautical methods for installing the sonotubes, but it would have to use an extraction of being able to back out any debris material and setting the tube at the same time and then pouring the footing. So
right. So you'd prefer to use this?
I prefer to use helical piles for the construction, and I'm probably gonna go that way. But at this point, due to being able to get a hold of people, it just kind of overlapped me being able to get the submission to your conservation commission.
Okay, yeah, I think we'd prefer the helical piles too. The construction's going to be all pressure treated?
As it's designed right now, yes, it's going to be all pressure treated.
So the railings and everything. So are you planning to maintain that over time?
Yeah, that maintenance will go towards the Endicott Park crew team.
Yeah.
Once it's completed.
Okay. And the Boy Scouts are your labor force? Is that what I'm understanding?
The Boy Scouts will be the labor force strictly for just the deck construction. All the other shoreline stabilization work that's proposed, the town is going to hire out or bid that out to a separate contract.
Okay, so they'll just have a day where there's going to be a bunch of them down there cutting and screwing.
Correct.
Is that about right? Okay.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, I like the Eagle projects. Okay, that's all that I have. So let me just ask the members of the board what they would think. So let me start with Ann.
I think she's on mute.
Mike, Ann, you're still muted. why don't we come back to her?
I got it.
All right, good.
My question, and I'm delighted to see that you're rebuilding or putting in a new one, because it's been sinking for a while. The erosion, what are the plans for the erosion control once that is implemented? Because it really is very eroded around it currently. So what are the plans for that?
Here's a detail of the proposed stabilization method that we're going to use. It's corpacine rolls stacked up to the elevation to meet the existing grade, with some infill behind that with some new seed as well. We'll put in plantings to kind of reestablish some grassland along the area, along the shoreline as well, to slow down the velocity going into the pond.
Okay. Okay. Good. Very good. Thank you. Okay, David.
All set, Ann? Okay, Michael, any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, looks like a good project. You know, scouts, I'm always for that. And Stephen, are you going to oversee this project?
I am, yep.
Yeah, from start to finish, yeah?
Yep, I've started it, and I'll make sure I'll be involved through the construction of both phases of the work.
Now, I had a question because it is a handicap fishing pier. The terrain looked a little rough going up to there. Is it possible for someone handicapped to get from, say, where their car is to that pier? That's my question.
So it is generally flat in the area. If I go to the existing conditions, there's not much of a grade change from the parking area that's upward around here and then off the road to here. It is our exposed roots. So that's another area that we'd have to address with a separate contract.
Yeah, I was thinking you would need to, if you're going to go make a handicap fishing pier, that it has to be accessible. And it just looked a little rough around where the beginning. I don't know. I can't see the rest of it, but that would be something you'll be addressing.
Yeah, the funding strictly for the pier that was built. So it will come down to me being able to work with Chris Sanborn and being able to create or carve out a path.
Yeah. Are you pretty much removing the old pier?
Yeah, everything is getting demolished and removed.
And when do you expect to do this?
We're hoping to start this project in the late spring, pending approval. I think really we have an open schedule with the team, the Cubs, the Boy Scouts willing to help as well. I think we can at least get the pile set, get the deck built, and then later on in the summer, be able to address the stabilization as well.
Yeah. And just curious, what kind of plannings would you be contemplating for stabilization?
I'd work directly with Georgia.
Yeah, she'll tell you.
Native species.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Vanessa?
Thank you, Peter. I am glad to see this area getting a little bit of attention. It has been looking a little rough. So I think it's a good project, and I think mostly everything's been addressed, and I just wanted to verify. So once you plant the native species, if there's issues with survival, is that going to be up to the Endicott staff to replace those plantings?
It would most likely come under Public Works budget.
But is there going to be anybody looking at it just in case? Because this happens a lot, not necessarily in town, but just projects in general. You know, all these things get planted and then they don't survive. And then
yes. So once we finish stabilization, we'll have to get together and have an operation and maintenance plan for the koi rollers as well as the plantings to make sure they do establish themselves, and also we're able to keep up with the maintenance of them along the shoreline.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm seeing that this project is both within the 25 and the 35. Does that mean we need 2 waivers, Georgia?
That's correct.
Okay, so before we get to that and we take any votes, I guess I need to ask if there's any public comments. So I think the first thing we'll go to is emails. Dave, has anybody emailed in?
No emails so far.
Okay, and how about anybody in the audience? Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Yes, sir. This is Matthew Duggan.
Hello, Matt.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matthew Duggan, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Just curious as to what the water source is that empties into this pond. Do we know? Is that something that comes from the wetlands that are behind the park? Or how is it? What's the feed for this area? Because you can see in this photograph that's being displayed, sometimes there's very little water there. So, I mean, I think that's the probably the need to extend the deck out further.
There's a small section of a tributary of Beaver Brook that runs through there, and also some drainage that comes across from the 95 area.
Right. I noticed that it fluctuates from season to season depending on the rainfall, it seems. And just is this stocked with some? Does the town stock this with fish, or what's in there? Is it like sunfish and bass, or?
I can answer that if you want me to, Steve.
Please.
Only because I've been in there with waders on, but they did used to stock it, sunfish and bass. We used to have fishing tournaments down there, so there are some species in there. I'm not sure the last time it was stocked, though.
Okay, that's fine. And just one last question. It seems like there's quite a bit of buildup in sediment. Was this area ever dredged to kind of prevent invasive plants from grabbing foothold in that area? Or you talked about the bank stabilization. Does that also take into effect or into consideration that this may need to be kind of, the sediment may need to be kind of scooped out at some point?
We didn't have any initial plans of turning this into a real dredging project.
That's phase 2.
Yeah, that's a little bit more involved than.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, I think our first order of business is to have a motion to close the hearing. So if someone could make that motion, please.
I move that we close the hearing on the Ingersoll Street project, number 1415358.
All right, the motion's been made to close the hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, let me poll the members. Vanessa, yes or no?
Yes.
Ann, yes or no?
Yes.
Michael, yes or no?
Yes.
Peter, yes. All right, so the hearing is closed. Now we have to vote on 2 different waivers, one for the 25 no disturb zone and one for the 35 no build zone. So first off, I'd like to hear a motion that we issue a waiver to the town for work within the 25 no disturb zone.
All right, I'll make a motion, but first, to Georgia, are we still at the 2535, not the 3550?
That's correct.
All right. Then I make a motion that we waive the 25-foot no disturb so as to allow this project to go forward.
Thank you. Is there the motion's been made? Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Peter? Yes. Okay, now could someone make a motion that we issue a waiver to allow for work within the 35-foot no build zone, please?
I'll make a motion that we issue a waiver for the 35-foot no build zone for this project, 14-1358.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea? I'm sorry, Chelsea's not with us yet. Ann.
Yeah, I am.
Yes.
I am.
Oh. Oh.
Sorry, I showed up a little while ago, but I was like halfway through the so like I didn't want to comment on it because I hadn't been here for the whole thing. But
Well, you haven't voted on any of the others, so Chelsea, why don't you just sit tight for this one? Just to,
Yep.
There's real no need. Where was I? Ann, did you vote?
Yes. Yes.
Mike?
Aye.
And Peter, yes. Okay, if someone can make a motion that we issue a order of conditions for this project, please, with, I guess there's several relatively minor standards we want to attach to it.
Oh, okay. I don't know what the standards are.
I'll make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 21 Ingersoll Street, DEP file number 14-1358, with the usual standards and also with the, as discussed, the work, the cutting work being done away from the site, and that the plantings be determined by staff as to what is appropriate.
Okay, and just well, the standard runoff practices as well. Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, I think we're all set on that one.
Okay, thank you
Good
very
luck,
much,
Stephen
everyone.
King.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Appreciate your time.
And good luck to the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
next up. Next on the agenda is a continued public hearing for an RDA for 188 Elliott Street, DCC.
Peter?
Yes.
Sorry, hold on. Do we have the, I just want to make sure you have the correct agenda. That seemed different than the one I had.
Well, I printed this out this afternoon, so do you want to switch?
Apologies. So the agenda that was posted, the next hearing is for 26 Grandview Avenue, the certificate of compliance.
Okay, so you're on the
Apologies.
postman then. Okay, so next, I'm sorry. Next up is a request for a certificate of compliance for 26 Grandview Ave, DEP file number 14-1275. Who's here to represent the applicant?
Right here, Mr. Chairman. Oh.
Okay, can you just give us a quick overview of what's been done? Maybe a drawing if you have one?
Sure. Georgia, do you have the drawing? Do you want to share, or do you want me to try to do it?
I'm happy to bring it up while you give your intro.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. You folks may remember, I'm not sure how many of you were still on the board about 4 years ago. This is a lot that, of course, is right in the town line of Middleton and Danvers, just to make permitting more fun. So this project was issued an order of conditions by both Middleton and Danvers, which was permitted in 2016. It was bought from one entity and then sold to another one. There were a couple of outstanding items that that the applicant, which is now 1000 LLC, had to take care of. About end of November, the applicant had a final site visit with Kristen Kent, who is the agent over in Middleton. The only thing that was left to be done was 3 no disturb zone markers. We've added the proposed the approximate location to the plan from where Kristen sketched them on for us. But other than that, it's been built substantially in compliance with the approved plans. It's site stable. They did a nice job. It looks good. We met last week with the Middleton Conservation Commission, and they voted to issue a certificate of compliance. Georgia was kind enough to add us to the agenda for this evening, and we're just back before you to do the same.
Okay, good. Thank you. Georgia, you've been out to the site and everything looks good, right?
Correct. I went out last week. Everything looked good. And one point I really wanted to look at was the swale that you see here. That, again, like Peter had mentioned, a majority is on the Middleton side. I just noted in the COC in perpetuity that the homeowner is responsible for maintaining that and not the town of Danvers. And engineering was satisfied with everything. They thought it looked good too.
Okay, good. I really don't have any further questions. I mean, as I remember, this was pretty straightforward when we authorized the order of conditions. So Georgia thinks it looks good. We can go from there. So that being said, let me ask the members what they would think. Ann?
I have no questions or comments on it.
Okay, thanks. Chelsea, any questions, comments?
No.
Mike?
I'm okay.
All right, good. Vanessa?
No questions.
Okay, if someone would make a motion, actually we have to close the hearing, correct? So if someone can make a motion that we close the hearing?
Okay. I make the motion to close the hearing on 23 Grandview Avenue.
26.
20, no, it was changed to 23. There's a note on that.
Oh, thank you.
There's a note on it was changed from 26 to 23.
Good catch, Ann. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't have the,
I didn't know that either. All right, okay, that's fine.
Okay. File number 14-1275.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the hearing? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
yes.
He's abstaining. Mike?
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yes.
And Peter, yes. Yep, we did. Okay, if someone can make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance?
I'll move we issue a certificate of compliance for 23 Grandview Ave, DEP file number 14-1275, applicant 1000 LLC.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, so that one's all set. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Okay, Georgia, what's next on our revised agenda?
188 Elliott Street.
Okay, so now we'll have a continued public hearing for an RDA for 188 Elliott Street. File number DCC, file number 2020-06. The applicant is Christ the Redeemer's Anglican Church, and who's here to represent them?
Hi, this is Chris Boyles from Meridian Associates, and also with me is Michael Capichetti from Meridian. And so we have submitted to the commission some additional information, a revised site plan and a sketch plan, as well as a letter outlining our recent work on the project. The last time we spoke, we were discussing stormwater, and it was requested that we did a site walk with the commission, and we discussed the stormwater on site with the engineering department. The engineering department, we engaged them in a stormwater discussion, and what concluded from that was for Meridian to confirm the 2011 NOI plans that were completed, that the site is still functioning. Those plans are still working as designed. So we surveyed the existing swale out there, and we looked at, we did a investigation of the existing pipes. We had company dash drains come out with us, and we flushed and jetted the pipes and inspected the pipes to make sure they were clean, and we surveyed the swale. All this was following an engineering memo about the 2011 plans. There was an engineering memo that outlined 5 items, and we were responding to these 5 items, which is in our letter confirming different issues. And as I had said, one of them was confirming that the pipes were clean and functioning. The others were making sure the inlets were also functioning, not blocked or anything like that, and that the swales were built per plan, the right dimensions and depths, as well as slopes, and there's a high point where the swale splits. So all this was completed. We provided a sketch plan showing the spot grades. We confirmed that the slopes were running like 2% one direction, 3% another direction. All of the dimensions were equal to or greater than what was proposed for width and depth. The swale is vegetated, and actually at the time of survey, it was flowing with water. I think we had some rain, so the water was running in it from the hill and was going through the pipes and into the catch basin and out into through the drainage system. And so we provided a revised plan with the Cape Cod berm on all 3 sides, or all 3 sides of the parking lot that's in your jurisdiction, as well as a sketch plan showing the information that we surveyed and a letter discussing those items that call back to the 2011 NOI. So that's kind of what we've done since our last meeting and site walk. So.
Okay, one other thing I'm reading you're proposing is modifying a catch basin, because that's not functioning as we would want right now?
So right now, in the existing conditions, there's a catch basin kind of in the middle of the parking lot, and it's not really capturing any stormwater. So we are making that a manhole, and we're putting a new catch basin at the curb line. So when water sheet flows off the parking lot, stormwater runoff, it'll capture and collect in the gutter of the curb, which we're installing, and then it'll run into the catch basin. So previously, a lot of the stormwater would just run off the pavement, and it would just bypass the catch basin. So there wasn't a lot of capture. So we're fixing that. So yes, so we're replacing that catch basin.
Okay, and there's snow storage. There's supposed to be signs that say where the snow is supposed to be stored, and there's supposed to be some agreement thing going down the road. There's going to be some kind of stormwater permit that's part of this.
We are in the process of. I'm sorry.
Stop me if I'm going down the wrong path, but I think there's supposed to be some stormwater approval plan, and part of that is going to be how snow is stored. Is that correct?
We are in the process of submitting the stormwater permit application, and part of that is the operation and maintenance of the stormwater facilities, and in that O&M does include handling of snow. So that will be filed with the town to review.
And that's all part of this whole permit process?
Correct, yes. Yes, we have to submit the stormwater permit to engineering.
And Steve King, you're part of this whole oversight, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Meridian will be submitting the permit to my office directly, and then my team will review it, provide any comments if necessary. And we'll be tracking the project as it's moving along during construction.
Okay. What's your hopeful timing to get this project done in?
I actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Mike, who's on from Meridian as well, if he knows. The church is not on the line tonight, so I'm actually not sure when they anticipate starting construction.
Okay.
Mike,
Mike, do you?
Mike Capichetti, Meridian Associates. It's my understanding that they ideally wanted to start in the coming spring. So if we got approval tonight, we're planning on submitting to Mr. King possibly in the next week. I know in the intermediate we have to wait for the conditions to be written, and then there's the appeal period. So I know there's some time built in. So by the time the appeals are up, I mean, we're probably looking beginning of March where it's even feasible to start anything.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have for questions, but I'm sure members of the board have questions as well. So let me just start with them. The first I'll start with is Ann. Do you have any questions, Ann? Comments?
In terms of that management process, when I was reading this, it said that there would be a signed statement, and anyone who was had to sign that they acknowledged that they were going to follow the plan and put the snow in the spots for that. Now, is that an ongoing process rather than a one-shot deal?
Mike, do you know how to answer that? I'm thinking about that answer right now.
So in terms of the long-term process, we are providing a operation and maintenance manual that needs to be signed by the church themselves.
Okay.
We had a meeting with both Georgia and Stephen King, a Zoom meeting last week, and I believe Georgia spoke about wanting to meet with specifically the members of the church and their plow team to make sure that they fully understand where snow storage is on the site.
Okay. Okay.
And Georgia, if I'm putting words in your mouth, please correct me.
That sounds correct to me, and I think we had also noted somewhere having in the operation maintenance plan just that signed statement of whoever's acknowledging that they'll be doing the work.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, and Mike had mentioned that, and I was just looking that up. We do have as part of the O&M, there is a signature page. So it'll be part of the approval documents.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
That's it, Ann?
Yes.
Okay, Chelsea, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Mike, any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. I think the applicant said that one of the drains was not performing because it was setting too high, so it wasn't grabbing any water. And when you mention the manhole is not going to act as a drain. It's an access.
Correct. The catch basin it's not necessarily too high. It's just in the wrong location, so it doesn't capture much water just by the nature of where it's located. And yes, we're essentially reworking the layout, and so the manhole is just going to be a standard manhole. It's not going to have a sump, so it's not for collecting sediment or anything like that. It's just a intermediate between the catch basins.
So it's like an access?
Yeah, you can, correct.
So does that require rerouting any of the drains or the pipes?
I can share, Georgia, I don't know if you can share the plan, or I can share mine. I can just kind of explain real quick.
Yeah, you have sharing capabilities.
Okay, share.
While Chris is pulling it up, yes, we're maintaining the existing drainage out there, so it'd be essentially a doghouse manhole to a sense, just placing over the existing pipes and connecting the new catch basin to that existing drain.
So you'll be digging up some of the pavement to install new pipe?
There'll only be new pipe coming from the new proposed catch basin to what.
Can you just point that out on the plan? The new
one? Mike, want me to take it from here? Okay. So what Mike was saying was, you can see there's an existing pipe here, and there's an existing pipe over here. This right here, we have a hatch for the mill and overlay, so it's a little hard to see actually, but this says proposed manhole. That was an existing catch basin. What we're doing is we're putting in a catch basin over here along this gutter line here, and a catch basin over here, and so stormwater will run down, hit the curb, and then will be directed to the manhole, and then will carry on its way down to Elliott Street. So does that answer your question, Mike? So actually, yes. And so we are, there will be a trench, for these new pipes. That is correct. The rest of it will just be a mill and overlay.
Yeah. And will is there currently an issue with runoff to the abutters, and will this address that?
As far as surface runoff, this will absolutely address that. Because currently there's no gutter here along this abutter, and water does flow from the sheet north down, and so by putting the curb here, it will capture this parking lot. Stormwater will hit this curb and go into this catch basin, and then there's other places on site. Most of the stormwater is from the top of the page and goes down. The only place you can see it's a big square where if you go straight down, you hit in a butter. The rest just flows down into Elliott. So that's why there's the berm here and a catch basin to capture the stormwater that wants to flow south to Elliott.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And then finally, the upkeep for this system will be the responsibility of the owner,
Correct.
not the town, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's owner's responsibility.
That's all. I think those are good improvements. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, thank you. Vanessa, any comments, questions?
I don't have anything additional.
Okay, let's go for public comment. The first would be to any emails. So let me ask Dave if he has anything.
No emails so far.
Okay. Anyone that's as part of this group have a comment? If you do, please state your name before you speak.
Joan Floyd Masters.
Hello, the Masters family.
Hi. A lot of them. We're still concerned about the water coming to us. I've been sending pictures to Georgia to her email. When we have rain or snow, that swale fills with water. And this is on the back side of the lot where the wetlands is.
On both sides, actually.
And it goes down along the other side towards Beverly Hills Ave, right towards our property. We watch that fill up with water, and then we watch it perk across the parking lot, starting from that swale, and you can watch it dry as it gets to us, and then you can see the puddles in our driveway. That's all new since this 2011 thing that they did over there. And with them putting, the snow retention is still on the land in front of us, which means we have a potential of 50,000 gallons of water coming at us. We're still very concerned about that. My house was built before the church was built. I've lived here for over 30 years. I believe I have a right to protect my property here. I'm very concerned I'm going to get flooded out.
There's no reason for a snow farm to be in front of our house.
The last couple of storms, yes, the plow guy did his job. I was very happy. They didn't disturb us all night. They also did not put the snow directly in front of us, but we still got runoff. And there's one particular part in the parking lot that comes down to the back side of our house where they have that big trench dug to catch the water and go out the drain down there. They put 2 mounds of dirt when they dug that. Those 2 mounds of dirt created an erosion in the snow pile that's now about 10 feet wide, where all the water runs right down there and right onto the back of my property.
It doesn't go into the swale.
It ate right through the whole snowbank. I sent a picture of that as well. And somebody has put, it looks like Christmas trees in the pile at the end of the wetlands. We're just getting a junk collection back there now. It's getting crazy. I want to make sure my house is going to live through this, my property that I've worked hard for.
All right. Thank you. Stephen, do you care to make any comment on what they're telling us they have the problems with? Steve? Are you muted, Steve?
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so we did take a look at the grading plan and the drainage plan that's proposed by Meridian. Definitely understand what you were saying by the runoff.
Can you speak up a little?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Thank you.
Sorry. So, yeah, so just to repeat, I did take a look at the grading plan that was proposed by Meridian and the changes in the stormwater infrastructure that they're proposing. With them adding in the curb line along the edge of the parking lot, rebuilding the parking lot, and changing the stormwater to be captured by the catch basin that's in the lower corner, right by the edge of the back entrance to your property. If we also put that curb line along that back edge as well, that should capture all the stormwater that's coming from the parking lot.
Around, going to our neighbors and then onto our
It's
property.
coming around. It's going along the back side of my fence in the backyard, the stockade fence. And then it's leaching through the whole back of my house after the snow melts and we have rain like we have today. I have a mud farm. I walk out to check the level of my propane tank, and I'm like ankle deep in the mud out there. Every time we have any kind of rain over there, and it comes down through that swale.
Around it.
The way it's all been banked, when they dug that, they just left 2 mounds of dirt there. Dirt and rock, and it's like a wall. So it puddles in front of that, and it comes right down to us.
Comes onto the, around.
It goes into
Don't go into the
204 Elliott Street to the back of their lot, and it goes into 202 Elliott Street in their backyard, as well as our yard.
So from what I saw, the swale that runs toward your house, it breaks at the corner of the parking lot. So you're talking about the swale that runs right directly toward your house. That's supposed to go into a manhole, which Meridian did inspect as well and didn't see any issues with that manhole. And then from that manhole, it ties into a drain pipe. So I didn't see it bypassing that manhole from the swale, just based on the grades and the sidewalk that I did. And I haven't seen the pictures that you sent, so I mean, we can definitely chat offline. If you
earlier, I don't know if she can show them. I don't have the capability to show them on this laptop.
Well, I can get those pictures from Georgia. But then also, as part of this project, like we spoke before, they are required to get a stormwater permit. They are required to issue a long-term maintenance plan. And then as part of the town's responsibility with that permit in the church, we are tracking their system. So if there is going to be a failure, then it's still on the owner to repair it once he opens that permit with us.
With a loader in about 10 minutes, I could fix that. But it's not my property, it's our neighbor's property that they actually dug on. I don't even think it was the church that should have been digging on it. But besides that point, if they take down the Trump wall that they built, it's just a big berm wall, and stop the water that's accumulating behind that and allow it to go into your trench, it'll stop coming to us. And hopefully you'll fix the pipe that's supposed to be in the trench to stop the water from accumulating there when it freezes up a little and it comes under your parking lot to us. And you will see it if you look at the pictures Georgia has. It's very self-explanatory. And actually, anybody that actually took grade shots out there can see the mounds they put there from their hole. They put it to block the
up over the back
pond,
of it towards us.
They put it towards the pond, so the pond fills up, and that gets even worse because now all that comes around too. All they have to do is take and cut a swale from where it used to be. It used to be from the pond, it was flat right into that trench. You remove that berm wall, that will eliminate at least a lot of that water that's coming to us. You can see it plain as day out there now, and you can see where somebody has filled that hole that they had with brush. I don't know what the hell that's about.
Yeah, it's new cut brush. It looks like somebody cut a couple of hedges out, or maybe a couple of Christmas trees or something. We never saw them go in with them.
I'm gonna have to interrupt here. This portion of the property that you're discussing is not within the project scope that we're trying to decide on. We're up in that back corner of the
but it all fills in from there to us.
Please let me finish.
ahead.
From what we're being told, that the stormwater system up and back there is going to handle the water coming out of the wetlands. Now that's our jurisdiction. If there are more stormwater issues, there's still the stormwater management plan that has to be approved before this project gets its final approval. So my point is that is outside of our jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction is up in that back corner, the 25 and 35 zones for the wetland.
This pertains to part of that. It does pertain to part of it. If they created the problem when they dug the hole and it allowed the water to migrate into that trench, it's not migrating in that trench anymore. They put a wall there. They did it. I didn't do it. They dug that hole. They built that trump wall, and now all that water is migrating around onto our property. All they have to do is remove some dirt.
Mr. Chair, could I ask through you, could I ask our town engineer whether the homeowner is correct about the berm? Would that resolve a problem? And is it part of the problem?
Okay, Steve, you heard the man, so that's my permission. You can go ahead.
As of right now, I got to go back out there and take a look, and I can walk with the residents. I don't think that
Please.
is ultimately going to resolve the issue. But again, as the chair spoke about, the stormwater, the engineering division, DPW is the stormwater authority for the town. So ultimately, because of this project meets its criteria for a stormwater permit, they're going to have to submit that information to me. I'm going to have to review it. I'll take a site walk, and we can address any issues that we may need to do at that point.
Well, including that berm, yeah.
Yeah, if it requires more excavation, from my sidewalks out there, I didn't see that. But again, I'll walk with the residents, and we'll pick another date and time.
I
think that's fair. I think that's a fair response.
Thank you.
I think if you just look at the pictures, it's really self-explanatory. And as far as, like I say, the water that's maintaining itself in that trough isn't going anywhere because the pipe that connected it to the other one that ran in there is gone. Look at the pictures we sent, what's her name? Georgia. You can see the water still sitting in the trench. That was days after it rained because you can see the pavement is still dry now. And that water is still migrating to that trench and not going down that pipe. It's going under your hot top. So there's still a problem there.
We don't want to lose what we've built for the last 30 some odd years. I've raised 4 kids in this house.
I can't put it in the driveway.
I understand your plight, but our job is dealing with the wetland. And as far as I can see, this project is, up in that back corner is the wetlands we're dealing with, and everything is being done properly there.
And in 2011, you addressed the wetlands with the church. We never got notified. They just did this thing
even before
after they dug up the pipe that we're talking about. And since then, the migration of the water is more and more and more to us, and we're scared to death when they put that snow in front of us, plus this migrating over to us. We don't stand a chance.
Here's a legal thing for you. You bought the church from another church.
No, the church people aren't on here.
Well, listen, they bought the church from another church. The Catholic Church had a responsibility, and this is by law. Look it up. You have a lawyer amongst you. You'll find out that they had asked permission to do that, and everybody had agreed, the original owners, if they maintained it. They didn't maintain it. You people removed it. That's not maintaining it by removing a previous deal. You're still responsible for the previous owners. Correct? If you've made an agreement with you people, well, maybe not this board, but the original Wetlands Commission allowed them to put that perimeter pipe in as long as they maintained it. When you acquire another piece of property, you're responsible to maintain that pipe and put it back. It's law.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to comment on that. But I would like to move this along.
With the Wetlands Commission.
Say again, please?
That was a previous agreement between the Catholic Church and the Wetlands Commission, it was.
Well, that's, I'm not aware of that. Are there any other comments from the public?
Yep, Matthew Duggan.
Go ahead, Matthew.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matthew Duggan, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Just a couple of points here, and I'll be brief. The plan that was shown a little while ago, I'd like to point out that the most eastern part of the parking lot, the corner, the bars.
Matthew, hold on one second. Whoever put that plan up, could you put that on the screen again for us, please?
Yes.
Part of it is Beverly too.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. I'm looking at a GIS map. This plan has a lot more detail. Yep, so we see there on the plan the line with Danvers and Beverly. So is town staff in contact with the Beverly Conservation Commission to discuss kind of a joint effort for this? Because this is one of those situations where, you know, it's like the last application that you reviewed.
Chris, do you want to handle this? I can also answer from the town staff standpoint.
Yes, yeah, I wasn't sure if that was for me, but yes, I can. Yes, so we have already met with the Beverly Conservation Commission, also for request for determinant RDA, and they approved the project. That was a few months ago at this point. So we've already met with Beverly. Georgia?
Yeah, I can further that with Chris. I've spoken to the agent in Beverly and just reviewed the determination they issued, and I've noted the conditions they had on that. I suggested that our commission mirror the same, so the requirements would mirror each other.
All right, that's great. Thank you for that information. Appreciate that you made the effort to, to reach out to them. So on this plan here, just over the line there, it looks like there's a manhole in the woods there. That's in Beverly?
This one here, can you see my cursor?
Yeah, the word letter D.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this area right here on the Danvers side where sort of where your cursor is, it says like 24.
Yep, that's for tree. Yep.
Yeah. So that area there, and the McMasters just mentioned that it looks like Christmas trees, but there's actually, I think, cuttings from a cedar tree, which is on the western side of this property. And so there's a significant amount of dumping in there, and we're not talking about leaves or grass clippings, even though that is not allowed inside the 100-foot buffer. But there is a considerable amount of brush, and it stands 5-6 feet high. So that whole area needs to be cleaned out, and that should be a condition for this application. And I was pleased to hear, just one last thing, I was pleased to hear that the snowplow operators are taking this situation seriously, especially that back part of the lot there where it's basically just at the same grade as the wetlands. So I think probably in the past there's been snow that has, oil, other vehicle debris, salt pushed into the wetlands. That's one of the worst things that can happen to wetlands, is to be contaminated in that way. So, hopefully the town will stay on top of this, make sure that they keep this property owner honest, and make sure that they adhere to the regulations. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else with any comments? All right, board members, we have to decide if we want to make a determination here, either a negative determination, or we have to pursue other avenues. So let me just go through and ask if anyone else has any further questions or comments, and then we'll go from there. So first would be Ann.
No further comments.
Michael, any questions, comments? Sentiments? Can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry. Yeah. What exactly are we voting on today, Mr. Chairman?
I think this is an RDA agenda item, so whether we want to say there's applicability here or not.
And
Georgia, chime in if I'm not doing a good job explaining.
if Georgia could just chime in on the alternatives of
Yes.
what a vote, a non-applicability vote versus no, we think this is applicable, and what the consequence is or the ramification.
Yes, of course. So they have filed a request for determination of applicability. So in that they're asking, are they applicable to the Wetland Protection Act standards or not? So a negative determination would be the board saying, we agree the proposal you put forward does not require further review under a notice of intent. If the board feels otherwise, that the project scope warrants being reviewed under a notice of intent, they could deny the request for determination of applicability. And with that denial, they would say it is applicable and they should file a notice of intent.
That's how I saw it too. Thank you.
Who's left? Chelsea.
I don't have anything.
Vanessa.
I don't have anything additional at this point either. I think that I'm just, for the sake of clarification for everybody, that any stormwater issue should be handled under the stormwater management plan that the town engineer and DPW is going to be involved in. That's all.
Okay, so as a board, just I'm going to throw it around again. Do we want to go ahead and let this project move along by issuing a negative determination, or do we want to have them go through the whole NOI process?
Well, could we just, if I could, again, Mr. Chair, could we just discuss that it's always found, to me, it's sort of, I always find it a little strange. We find it's not applicable, but then we assign all these conditions.
Yep, I know what you're saying.
So it almost seems like it is applicable. And in this case, there are a lot of conditions. I just like to discuss how this actual stormwater management program, how often does that relate to a finding of non-applicability? I mean, isn't that suggest that it's applicable?
So by asking that question, you're more or less advocating that we have to go through the notice of intent process.
Well, I think so, yeah. I mean, why does staff feel it's not applicable, I guess? With all these conditions and concerns with the abutters.
So, yeah, to clarify, I mean, I guess staff isn't saying it's not applicable. I guess that's what the applicant has applied for, and that's the avenue they chose to take. I think they also took into consideration what was already existing, and that the parking lot that is there is exactly where it will be following the project. From what I recall, Chris, you guys had kind of noted that it was just a mill and overlay, that there was no increase to impervious. So that was, I think, one of the main things they held their hat on for filing an RDA, and that this is more of a maintenance from a previous approval. Through the hearing process, though, of course, we've seen that some other issues have come up that weren't part of the project before, that I think Meridian or the church had anticipated. So I think that kind of changes the conversation a bit for scope of RDA versus NOI. But again, the stormwater, it's being handled on the engineering division. So those additional conditions we do see, again, those were copied from Beverly's RDA, and a number of those were put in kind of to condition what we had discussed about from the last hearing. So again, of course, it's up to the commission to make that decision. Staff doesn't really, I didn't want to put it out either way, but that's what they have applied for.
Right.
Okay, any other opinions, Anne?
I think that the stormwater management is going to cover the issues rather than going through the NOI. Because that appears to be what the problems are. And again, that's beyond what I think our mandate is. So that's my thought on it.
Okay, thank you. Chelsea, any comment?
No, I can't think of anything.
Okay, thanks. Vanessa?
I kind of feel like, is there any additional information that could even be in the NOI that we don't already know? I don't really feel like we would even learn anything from an NOI. I think we've gone through this one pretty in depth and beat it to death. So I don't really see the advantage of filing an NOI. I don't think it's going to give us any additional information whatsoever. And I agree with Ann's point.
Okay. As the chairman, I tend to agree with Ann and Vanessa that I think, you know, we pretty much know what we know about this project, and the NOI just starts the whole process over again. And, you know, as a safeguard for the abutters concerns, I think that falls under the realm of the stormwater management permit. And, you know, this project is not going to go forward until that stormwater management project is approved. That being said, I think it's time. We have to close the hearing first, correct? Does anyone else have any
input?
We've had already. I'm just going to ask one more time if anyone else has any comments before we move along. All right, hearing none. Would someone make a motion that we close the hearing, please?
I move that we close the hearing for the Elliott Street. I haven't got it in front of me here. Where am I looking? 188 Elliott Street, file number 2020-06.
Yeah, the motion's been made to close the hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Peter? Okay, now we have to decide on what kind of motion we want to make. I think the sentiment of the board, from what I heard, was to issue a finding of a negative on the RDA, and we'll proceed from there. And the stormwater management permit process would be an additional safeguard for the abutters' concerns. That's my outlook on it. And if someone wants to make a motion along those lines, go ahead. Or if you want to make an alternative motion, that can be entertained as well.
Excuse me, Peter. It was recommended that we also take a look at what the city of Beverly added to their motion, which included things like no signs and no expansion of the paved footprint, etc. Is that something we want to include?
As part of it? Yeah, I mean, there's like 3 or 4, right?
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to verify that.
Mm-hmm. So are you volunteering to make the motion?
Okay, I'm still new at this motion stuff, but we'll give it a go. Like to the commission to issue a negative determination for Elliott 188 Elliott Street, DCC file number 2020-06. With the following conditions. The asphalt milling shall be appropriately removed and disposed of off-site. There shall be no expansion of the existing paved footprint within the jurisdictional areas. There shall be no use of rock salt on site. A sign indicating this prohibition must be posted. The applicant shall work with staff to determine appropriate verbiage, size, and location of sign following start of any work on the site. And no snow storage signs will be installed within the vicinity of the foot buffer zone adjacent to the swale area in the area approved.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Is there a motion's been made? Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa,
yes.
Chelsea,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Michael,
No.
Peter, yes. Okay, so there we go. And now, now the next step is on to the stormwater management plan, and say good luck to all. It's not an easy project to deal with.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Georgia, where are we going to next? To Congress and Harvard Street?
Correct.
Okay. Next up is a notice of intent for 18 Congress Avenue, DEP file number 14-1355. The applicant is Ryan Livermore. Ryan, who's here to represent you? Or are you
Hey,
representing yourself?
I am. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Again, for the record, my name is David Cowell. I'm a senior wetland scientist with Hancock Associates here on behalf of Ryan Livermore. This is a continued notice of intent public hearing. We had our first hearing a few weeks ago. Since the prior hearing, we've held a site walk with several members of the Conservation Commission, and we discussed some concerns that the commission expressed on that site walk, and I'd like to go over some of those with you. Georgia, do you have the plan available to broadcast on the screen?
I do. Just give me a minute.
Okay, no worries. But first and foremost, I think that one of the concerns expressed by the commission was the proximity of the house to the 35-foot no-build zone. As we had designed this in the first place was that we recognized the 35-foot and built to it. And the commission asked if there was any opportunity for relief. We did have the architect on the project evaluate that. We do take your concerns very seriously. And he looked at it, and we were able to push it by a couple of feet. Beyond that, it becomes sort of the butterfly effect or the snowball effect that any greater distance than that wreaks havoc on the floor plan and the infrastructure, and really requires almost renders the project infeasible. So we pushed off a couple of feet, which I think just allots us a little bit more room for if there is a minor discrepancy in the wetland line, to give us a little bit of relief. What we've also, in discussions with Georgia, we were asked to demarcate where the limits of lawn are. I don't see it on this plan. I thought we had labeled call-outs for where the lawn was. Essentially, the area that exists as mown meadow right now beyond the 35-foot zone will serve as mown lawn. The lawn is primarily going to be, again, we have two, the next two hearings are for us. These are sister lots. They're right next to each other. And in between the two houses is where the lawn, here's the call out for lawn that is detailed on this plan. So it's in between the two houses is where the lawn is primarily going to be. That's where they have lawn space between the two houses. We've also denoted that we will demarcate the 25-foot no disturb zone with, Georgia said that the Conservation Commission will provide placards that will affix to wooden posts that will set along the 25-foot no disturb zone. Our proposal for the area within the no disturb zone, which currently exists as mown meadow, would be to let that area renaturalize into a native meadow. We would request that there be a condition in perpetuity to allow us a once annual mow late season to prevent succession for shrubs and trees and species to come in there. If the commission would entertain, we can either just let it go fallow and renaturalize, New England Wetland Plants does have some seed mixes available. If you wanted us to, we'd be amenable to. It's not that expensive. We could buy, I think the specs on some of their seed mixes are 1 pound per 1,250 square feet. That we could calculate the surface area of this area and broadcast seed it with some native seed mix to help it along, to help this grow back into native species as opposed to whatever weedy grasses may be in there now. I think that summarizes our response to the Commission's concerns and comments with a revised site plan. And with that, I would turn this back to the Commission for deliberation and questions.
The first comment, I just I'd like to thank you for moving the corner that one house back a little bit from the 35-foot.
Thanks. Yep. We really do respect your concerns.
Okay, and I like the fact that you want to let the 25 no disturb go from a cared lawn to trying to return to a somewhat natural state. So other than that, I mean, it seems like you've done a fairly good job here. So I don't have any other questions, but I'm sure other members do. So I'm going to pass it along and let them ask their questions. So the first would be Ann.
I think you're on mute, Ann.
There I go. Okay. I like the idea of the letting it grow, mowing it once a year to keep it, to ensure that it's not weed city here, and putting the native plants in there. I think that's really important, and I appreciate the fact that you did move it because that was a big concern, so close to the zone there. So I don't have any questions on that, just those comments. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, Chelsea, any questions or comments?
No, just I do appreciate, again, the corner of the house being moved and rewilding that manicured lawn area. If we could get like some native plants put in there too, that would be very cool. Other than that, I like this.
Great.
I'm just going to ask one quick question that I forgot to ask. We haven't really talked too much about erosion control, with the excavation and all. So go
ahead. I think our intentions would be to have a perimeter erosion control. I thought we had carried a spec detail. It would be at your preference. I mean, we could either put a staked straw wattle, or if you think that a silt fence is necessary, we could put a silt fence in. And we would put that in along the 25-foot no disturb zone.
Okay.
To demarcate that.
All right. It's just that I don't recall it being mentioned, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Right.
Okay, so we just had Ann, Chelsea. How about Mike? Mike, you're muted.
Okay, fine. They met our concern about the house being almost right on the 35, and they moved it, which I was pleased. And I would, as far as the erosion control, whether the type of erosion control, I think that should be the planning should weigh in on that as to what we usually use or what's preferable. And that's my only comment.
Okay, Vanessa.
Thanks. I just want to recap the plan for dealing with the invasives already there. I think there had been some discussion about possibly trying to address some of the existing invasives. So maybe we could just kind of go over that aspect again. And I also just want to mention that I would prefer the option to spread the wetland or the native seed mixture. I think that would be a good addition rather than risking what might come up.
Sure. So that's still on the table. So just beyond the limits of the mown meadow, there are some. There's not a tremendous amount, but there is some of the usual suspects: glossy buckthorn, maybe some honeysuckles, and some bittersweet. I think we'd be amenable to removing invasive species within that 25-foot no disturb zone, if that is at the purview of the Conservation Commission. Just to mention what I have in mind for a native seed mix, and I think this is very easily conditionable, is there's a native metal mix available that we could broadcast seed it with. I do want to talk to Ryan. There's another seed mix. It's a showy wildflower mix, which if it costs a little bit more, not a tremendous amount more, but if it serves two benefits. I have a lot of clients that prefer the showy wildflower mix because it not only has aesthetic value that adds beautification to the homes, but it also is a great mix for native pollinators, for hummingbirds, butterflies, bees, and species like that. So again, either one of those mixes I think would be suitable and appropriate for that area. It's very easy. Once that's decided, if Ryan picks one or the other, I could provide a seed mix specification to Georgia to just add to the file.
Okay, and I think Vanessa was asking about dealing with the invasives.
Yeah, that's what we would be amenable to removing. I mean, if you just condition that applicant will remove invasive species to the maximum extent practical within the 25-foot no disturb zone, then I can provide some guidance. I know that when I met on site, Ryan has one of his workers, I think, works with, why can't I think of his name right now? DeRosa Environmental. So he has some familiarity. Typically what I would do is as an ecologist is I would go out and I would flag the invasive species to remove to ensure that they're not taking native species, and then remove, like I said, glossy buckthorn, honeysuckle. I think I said bittersweet, but I don't know I think I meant to say multiflora rose. But these are all shrubby species that we'd be happy to take out.
Okay.
And can you just clarify the method of removal? Would it just be, would you try to like dig up the roots or just cut them down, or what's the plan for removing them?
Yeah, so that, I guess that would require some deliberation with the commission. Of course, things like species like glossy buckthorn, and I don't think there's any Japanese knotweed. Some commissions will prohibit the use of herbicides altogether. I think we'd prefer mechanical methods to remove these. Species like glossy buckthorn, really, if you just cut them flush to the ground, they grow back by sucker roots, and you'd have to cut them several times, over and over and over again to get it back. There's a tool called a weed wrench, which is preferred that you actually, it's almost like a lever, on a fulcrum that grabs the stem and pulls it out by the roots. So that's kind of a good method. It creates a small amount of disturbance where the root comes out. But we could always patch that. We could apply some more native seed mix to get vegetative cover and stabilize locations where these are pulled out by the root. So these options are on the table. If the commission did prefer, some species are really difficult to treat without herbicide application. I've had other commissions say that in treatment of species like Japanese knotweed, which has a hollow stem, is that instead of doing a foliar application, there's a cut stem injection method, which is very species specific, that has low risk of collateral toxicity to other species. It's very specified. Oftentimes, if you're doing this commercially, you would need to hire a licensed herbicide applicator to do it.
Yeah, I think we'd like to stay away from herbicides as much as we can.
All right, fair enough, and that's very common with commissions. So yeah, we'd limit that to the extent of mechanical methods.
Okay, Vanessa, are you all set with did you answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board before I open it to the public comment? Okay, hearing none, is there any email comments, Dave?
No email comments.
Anyone from the public that's attending the Zoom, the WebEx meeting, care to comment? Okay, hearing none, I guess if someone's willing to make a motion, we can move this project along.
Well, I'll make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 18 Congress Street, DEP file number 14-1355, with the condition that no herbicides be used in removal of non-native species, that erosion control be established in conjunction with what planning recommends in terms of whether it's watchel or fencing and standard conditions. And the wildflower mix that the board has indicated they would prefer. And I think you mentioned these showy, what did you call it? The showy.
It's called the New England Showy Wildflower Mix. It's a product from New England wetland plants. I
like that you suggested it attracts bees, and I like that in hummingbirds, which I like seeing in my yard too. So I would add that as well. So that's the motion. Thank you.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now we just have to put a stop on it because I made a mistake.
Close the public hearing.
We should have closed the hearing first. So if someone can make a motion, we close the hearing, and we'll do that next.
I'm going to move we close the public hearing.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and I renew my motion for an order of conditions as previously stated.
Right, I was going to say we could go with that. We don't have to repeat it. The motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes. Oh, sorry, yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Peter? Yes. Okay, that has passed. Okay, on to item number 4, continued public hearing for notice of intent for 11 Harvard Avenue, DEP file number 14-1356. Just to save some time and breath, Dave, is there anything that distinguishes this project from the prior project?
No. So in brief summary, this is the sister lot right next to it. It would be subject to all of the same provisions that we just discussed. We would demarcate the 25, every condition that we just had on the prior one would be subject to this one as well.
Okay. That being said, let me poll the members to see if there's any further questions or comments. So I'll start with Ann.
No, I'm fine with this one.
Okay, Chelsea.
No.
Mike, any further questions or comments?
Actually, yeah, because it was a comment I made to, I meant to bring up at the previous location. And I don't know if this gentleman's on a conservation commission or someone from his group is. And I was just wondering what was the benefit versus disturbance when you use these mechanical methods to pull out some of this so-called invasive species. And let's say you do that, does that mean you're going to come back every year and do that? Are we going to put that on the owner? And why would...
I would typically, a lot of commissions will, anytime you're doing restoration work, is that, commissions may require a few additional treatments. So I would recommend that they make the one initial removal, but, prior to any request for a certificate of compliance, that they may need to return a couple of times to evaluate whether or not there's any additional regrowth or encroachment that they would treat. So yeah, I would recommend a series of a few treatments.
Yeah, but this property is going to get sold maybe in the spring. Who knows? Who's going to actually want to do that? not a homeowner. And you're not going to come back and do it. So how does that get done?
It's an enforceable condition in your order of conditions, and you can enforce it up until the point at which you issue a certificate of compliance. So there's opportunity to, it's a condition that regardless, and the order of conditions will go with the, with the property. It's anytime there's a transition or a purchase and sale, then that's,
Well, how would we measure that, for example? Would we go out and count the invasive species, take a look, and then take a look down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we, at the point at which we come back, I mean, you can set some sort of performance standard that I don't know how to quantify what's in there now, right? There's not much. But prior to when we come back and request for a certificate of compliance, you can condition that the Conservation Commission will walk the site prior to issuing the certificate to look and see if there's any invasive species and if you want additional removal prior to considering the certificate.
Yeah, not to prolong this, but see, I'm not sure I would want to put that on a homeowner, just an average homeowner, and say, you really got to knock down these invasive species, and we need to take measurements or quantify it, as you said. I don't know. I just sort of struggle with that a little.
If I can chime in for a second, as part of the maintenance of that mowed meadow, that's going to maintain a lot of these invasives by cutting it annually, or even if we wanted to change it over to a 2-time-a-year cutting to maintain any of that stuff so it's not spreading.
So it could be done through that method.
Yeah.
That would be best, because the reality of it is that one of the properties is already sold and that we will be looking for certificates of compliance probably within 6 months. So you're not going to be able to get out there and get multiple treatments, but the maintenance of the meadow will maintain a lot of this.
Yeah. So that should be the condition on, I think on both those properties, that maintenance, and maybe twice annually. So, all right. So those were my comments that I meant to bring up on the previous property. So I really apply them to both. Thank you.
Well, that,
Great. Thank you, Ryan.
that was one of the conditions, wasn't it?
Not a problem.
But not twice a year, I don't think.
If we upped it to twice a year, would probably eliminate both of the issues.
Okay, so whoever makes the motion, let's just try and remember that.
Oh.
So that was Mike's. Now we still have Vanessa, if she has any further questions or comments.
Nothing additional.
Okay, if someone's ready, we could entertain making a motion to issue an order of conditions for this project as well.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we have public comment.
The one time I forget, that's when they come in. Okay, Dave, what do we have?
So we have an email from Jane Fuller, 30 Congress Avenue. Good evening. Have the setbacks been determined and approved? ? Moving the corner of the house, does that change the frontage, or will it be closer to other proposed home? ? Will there be a cedar post fence or the like to delineate the no disturb zone? So most of those seem like zoning questions, but
well, the answer to the zoning question is no. That by pushing we're losing 2 feet of house. We're not pushing the front of the house any closer. So that's there's no further encroachment closer to Congress Avenue than what we had proposed. They just lose 2 feet of house.
Okay.
What were the other questions?
will there be a cedar
You can
post?
ask the questions.
Yeah.
Will there be a cedar post fence to delineate the no disturb zone?
I don't think we're proposing fencing, but I think there's wooden posts. So the Conservation Commission provides us, as I understand, with placards that, or the signage that we would have fixed to wooden posts and stake those posts in along the 25. But I don't think there's a proposal to have that fenced. In fact, if it was fenced, I think it would be more difficult. We can't maintain the annual mow.
Yeah.
It would be prohibitive to maintain it.
Okay, is there any other questions with that, Dave?
No other questions.
Okay,
Matthew Duggan.
go ahead, Matthew.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matthew Duggan, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. I have a question about Harvard Ave. So that appears to be a paper street. Does the entirety of Harvard Ave, is that within the wetlands or within the commission's jurisdiction? It runs from Elliott Street to the river?
Matt, are you asking if the entirety of Harvard Ave is within jurisdiction?
Yeah, because when I look at Google Earth, it appears to be kind of like a marshy kind of area that is unbuildable along its entire length. Is that accurate?
We can't confirm unless we've done an actual full survey of the whole thing. I haven't looked at the state wetland maps to see if it's the whole entire Harvard Ave, so I can't confirm.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. Is Harvard Ave owned by the town of Danvers? Is that public property?
Hi, I can jump in if you'd like. So,
go ahead.
Not exactly sure, again, as Georgia pointed out, without doing a full survey and a title search as to what the ownership and fee is of the entirety of the paper street. So we don't have that information right now.
Okay, well, I think, again, from Google Earth, that would be a worthwhile exercise, because it appears that 20 Congress, and I meant to mention this for the previous agenda item, there's a significant encroachment from 20 Congress Ave into that, what I consider to be a wetlands area. And also, there looks like there's a road, kind of like an oval racetrack kind of thing that's, it looks like it's a couple hundred yards long. So I think it behooves the town to kind of do a further investigation for this. I mean, you've required a significant amount of work by the applicant, and they're kudos to them for working with the town to make sure that this is this project is done correctly. But there looks like there's other human activity in this area, within this wetlands area, that should be investigated. It doesn't look right to me. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're correct in that, Matthew. We were made aware of that during the site visit, but it's kind of outside of the scope of this project. And I think other town departments are investigating that particular piece of property. Okay. Anyone else from the public here to make a comment? Hearing none, if someone could make a motion to issue an order of conditions for this project?
Mr. Chair, do we need to close the public meeting? Close the meeting?
Yes, we do. Okay. Since you brought it up, Mike, why don't you make a motion?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing for 11 Harvard Ave, DEP file number 14-1356.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, the hearing is closed. Now, if we can make a motion to see if we want to issue an order of conditions for this with any specific conditions?
Okay, where'd it go?
If no one's going to speak up, I'll make a motion. We issue an order of conditions for 11 Harvard Avenue, DEP file number 14-1356, with usual conditions of erosion control that as a method of dealing with invasive species, that as recommended by the applicant, that the area, the 25, be mowed twice a year, that the seeding be of the type raised mentioned by the applicant, which was a showy version that attracted some hummingbirds and bees, etc. And that's the motion.
I'm sorry, Mike, did you mention the twice a year mowing?
I
Yes.
did.
Okay. Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, you have been approved, so good luck to you.
Thank you so much for your time and your help. We appreciate it.
And we look forward to you coming back quickly for certificate of compliance.
Thank you.
All right.
All
Be well, everyone.
Thank you. Our next item is a notice of intent for 42 Brookside Ave, DEP number 14-13-. Is there more, Georgia? Do we get a number for this one?
We did. I think it just came in. Bill, is it 1359?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, and the applicant is Hayden Warren, and Bill Manuel is representing him. And just want to thank you both for being so patient. Go ahead, Bill.
All right, George, I'm going to jump right in and share my screen.
Go ahead.
Okay. This is Bill Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management in Danvers. I see Hayden Warden is here, logged on this evening. And hopefully you had some spirited conversations tonight, and hopefully I'll lull you to sleep with this very simple project. Hayden and his family live at 42 Brookside Avenue. They'd like to put a small addition on the right side of the home. Beaver Brook flows through the back of the property. Beaver Brook is a perennial stream. So there are banks of the brook, banks of the stream, and there's also riverfront area that encumber the property, and the FEMA maps show a narrow floodway that is also runs adjacent to the brook. So the brook is here. I've experimented with some various software to color that in nice and blue. The bank flags are directly along the edge of the brook. It's a vertical bank about 18 inches high, 12 to 18 inches high. And the 25-foot no disturb line is here. The 35-foot no build line is here. The FEMA flood map shows the floodway to be right along the brook in this location. And of course, the entire site is in the riverfront area. The property is well maintained, and it has nice landscaping around the front and side of the home, and it has a nicely kept lawn from essentially the street to the banks of the brook. So Mr. Warren would like to add on a 2-story addition here, and the rest of the home is going to undergo some pretty good renovation. There will be a farmer's porch that's constructed in the front of the property, and there's a section of walkway here that will be removed in place of a new walkway here. And the important thing to note is that this entire project, this addition, this farmer's porch, they all occur within maintained lawn area. And then the second most important thing to point out is that the project is compliant with the 25 no disturb and 35-foot no build zone. So this should be fairly simple. The DEP issued their file number with no comments. Let me just walk you through the performance standards. So we have bank resource area. We're not anywhere near the bank. The lawn is essentially dead flat. You can see spot grade elevations here, 38.8, 38.2, all the way up into the front yard, 39.42. So barely a foot of difference between front and back. The riverfront area, as I said, encumbers the entire lot. The performance standards for riverfront areas say, number 1, perform an alternatives analysis, and number 2, be as far from the river as possible and stay under 5,000 square foot of alteration. So
The total alteration is about 672 square feet with this addition plus this farmer's porch on the front. The nearest point of work from the mean high water line is right here, and that is 63 feet away. Every other bit of work is farther away than that, and of course the porch is on the opposite side of the home from the resource areas, so no chance of impact from that. We do show a mulch sock erosion control to close in the work zone. This addition here will have a crawl space type foundation on it, so it's not a full cellar, which means there'll be minimal excavation. All the stuff that comes out of the hole that will not be used for backfill will be taken off site. In the front of the property, the porch will be supported either on sonotubes or precast concrete deck supports. So again, fairly limited excavation here. At the end of the project, all the areas that have been disturbed will be restabilized with grass or landscaping, and that should be it. So it's a fairly simple project, compliant, doesn't need any waivers, and is compliant with all the performance standards. So that's the extent of my presentation.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Just one quick question. How does stormwater get handled off of the structure? Is it, are there downspouts just onto the lawn, or are there even gutters? I probably should have asked that first.
There are gutters and downspouts that direct the existing rooftop to the adjacent lawn area. And as I said, the lawn it's completely manicured front to back, and the lawn is really flat. So, Georgia asked the same question when we visited the site last week. There's no sign of any erosion or scouring in the lawn, and so with the proposed addition, we will do the same treatment. We'll just have gutters and downspouts just directing it out into the flat lawn area.
Okay. And the new walkway, is that going to be like a pervious surface?
No, that'll be a paver stone. Hayden, if I'm not saying that right, jump in, but the existing walkway here and going out to the street, that is a paver stone walk, and so will the new walk. It's just going to shed side to side, and anything that runs off it will just go into the grass.
Yeah, if you give me a second, I can explain. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
The front walkway is just going to come out to the street. The one that's showing to the driveway is not going to be there. I think I might get rid of that, but it's in there just in case. But it is going to be a paver walkway.
So pavers are pervious, though, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
But if I need to use something else, I can.
No, I think we'd prefer a paver over something like asphalt. So
yeah, it's not going to be asphalt. I wouldn't do that in the front of my house. That'd be ugly.
Okay, good. Other than that, it seems pretty straightforward. So that's it's good to see.
Yeah, and he did answer the question right about the gutters. It's just gonna be runoff like it is now. Goes on the lawn and never really puddles or anything. It runs right off.
Okay, you do have gutters, or just drips off the roof?
There is gutters on the house now existing.
Okay, so you're just adding another 400 square feet. Okay, no, it looks good from my end, but let me pass it on to the other members and see if anyone else has questions. So I'll start with Ann.
No, I don't have any questions. This looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chelsea.
No, I don't have any questions or comments either.
Okay, good. Michael.
Yeah, no, I know the area. I know the property. I know the brook. Has a deep bank to it. I'm down there running some days, and but I did have a question for Bill. Where it's all entirely in the 200. Are you required to do an alternative analysis?
We are required when it's in the riverfront area, and I did include that in my narrative. Basically, there are two alternatives that I considered, and one is is putting the addition where it is, and the second was the obvious alternative is, well, can you put it on the other side within the driveway?
That makes it closer, though. Yeah.
It does make it closer. So that, you know, right from the get-go, that was the sort of the definitive feature that said, put it back over here. Not to mention that the bedrooms are on this side of the home. You know, this is going to be a family room on the first floor and bedroom on the second floor. And you don't have a connection to the house if you were to put it here. So that's why it really needed to go on this side so that it works with the flow of the existing house.
All right, you answered my question. Thank you. And I'm in favor.
All set, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, Vanessa?
This is pretty straightforward. I don't have anything additional.
Okay, we'll turn to public comments. Emails first. David, do you have anything in emails?
No emails.
Okay, anyone as part of the meeting tonight have any comments? Hearing none, I think our hearing should be closed, so if someone can make a motion to that effect, we'll go from there.
I don't mind making a motion, but can somebody just reiterate what the file number is?
It's 14-1359.
Thank you,
It's
Peter.
actually 13-1359.
It's 13-13?
I have 14.
It should be 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all the others are 14. Okay, Vanessa, does that give you enough information?
Yes, I move that we close the public hearing for 42 Brookside Avenue, file number 14-1359.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor. Vanessa?
Yes. Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, if someone can make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for this project, please go ahead.
Okay, order of conditions.
Make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 42 Brookside Ave, DEP file number 14-1359. Condition that any excavation be removed off-site, excavation materials, and that gutters and downspouts be used on the addition. That's the motion.
Thanks, Mike. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Oh, I wanted to add one other thing, that on the walkway uses pervious pavers.
Okay.
Is that all right, Bill? You got that?
Hayden, is that all right?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay. We are good to go on that one. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is a notice of intent for 17 Dartmouth Street, DEP file number 14-13-60. Is that a correct guess?
No, it's 1357.
1357. Okay. The applicant is Jason Leonard, and who's here to represent the applicant?
Hello again. I hope you're not tired of listening to me talk. This is David Cowell with Hancock Associates on behalf of Jason Leonard. So we filed a notice of intent and request to permit a modest single-family home addition. Much like the prior applicant, this is 20 by 20 feet in dimension, so a total of 400 square feet. As Georgia pulls up the plan here, I think that the two resource areas that would be purview to discussion is riverfront area and the 35-foot no disturb zone. As I understand this.
Excuse me, yes. Dave. Is there any way with that drawing can be made a little bigger?
I'm working on it. I'm manning the controls, Peter. I'll try to get it.
Okay, thanks, Georgia.
All right,
Dave. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can talk about some of the elements. So this property abuts Frost Fish Brook, which I understand that by local nomenclature, there's another term for this waterway, it's something ditch. In any case, most of the houses on here are what are existing non-conforming. These are houses that were built in the 1960s, and 17 Dartmouth is one of these. And these houses were constructed prior to enactment of the Wetlands Protection Act, the Riverfront Act that was in 1996, and enactment of the local town bylaw that sets the 25 and the 35-foot setback zones. I'll discuss riverfront area first. The entire lot is within riverfront area. There's no opportunity to vacate that. We did do an alternatives analysis, and we looked at, there's really, based on the architecture of the house and the floor plan, that there is no opportunity to locate the addition on another part of the house. The opposite side of the house is the garage. This is the only feasible area that works with the existing house's floor plan. As proposed, so that was part of our alternatives analysis, that there really is no practicable alternative to vacate the position that we proposed. A couple of items to discuss is that this area, the footprint of this would be concrete on slab. There's no basement. That really minimizes excavating and grading. The footprint would be over what currently exists as manicured lawn. Therefore, there would be no removal of native vegetation to do this. In accordance with the riverfront area standards, you're permitted to develop up to 5,000 square feet of within the riverfront area. We provided calculations, I believe, in the existing condition. There's 4,010 square feet developed within the riverfront area, and with the increase of 400 square feet, it would bring us to 4,400 square feet. So we're still below the 5,000 foot threshold under the riverfront performance standards. The next element that is in play is the 35-foot setback zone. As proposed, we are asking for a minor waiver. As George is highlighting now, we have a total of 41 square feet of footprint that would encroach into the 35-foot no build zone. The closest distance would be 32 feet instead of 35 feet. And what we're offering to do there as compensatory mitigation is that, assuming that the commission may be concerned with the increase of 41 square feet of impervious surface area within the no build zone, that in the existing addition, there's a 102 square foot wooden shed that George is highlighting now, and we would relocate that. We would move that to the applicant will either get rid of it entirely, or he's going to move it to the opposite side of the lot as far away as possible to vacate that area. So that would provide 102 square feet of reclaimed impervious surface area that we would renaturalize. Again, I can propose some of the native seed mixes that I had discussed in our prior hearing. And that's it. Our sediment erosion controls would be, I believe we had specified a silt fence detail that would be held around the property boundary. I did look at, when I delineated median high water on this, I was looking for invasive species or any other opportunity to remove invasive species. This is a case where I really didn't find any. Beyond the property boundary, as it naturalizes going towards the stream, it's actually very good species composition of native species, and it's great from a conservation perspective, but as I was talking to Jason, it takes away one thing that we may have to offer. It's actually quite pristine in there. So with that, I turn it over to the commission for questions and comments from us.
Okay, just I'm really going to press you to try and find an alternative to move that addition out of the 35-foot zone. As I'm looking at the drawing here, that concrete patio that's existing?
Yes, yep, that's existing, right.
And what's the layout? This is a single family home,
That's right.
and why does the addition have to be right in that corner?
Now, I know, I wasn't involved with I mean, this was feedback that I received from our civil engineers in review of the architectural renderings. Now, I wasn't purview to the architectural renderings. I know Jason is on the phone right now, and he may be, or he's in attendance tonight. He may be able to speak to the layout of the interior of the house of why it's positioned where it is and why it can't be relocated. I don't have a floor plan.
Okay, and just one question before maybe we can see if we can get Jason on.
Sure.
It looks from this drawing, it looks like the corner of the house borders on the 35.
Yep.
Is that a fair?
Yes.
observation?
The far corner for which we are proposing to broadcast from is at the 35 foot.
Okay, and to be honest with you, I probably could have done a better job of preparing and looked at Google View just to see what the street looks like. I want to see how other houses are oriented on this street. So right now, I'm kind of on the fence. I really don't like to issue waivers for something like this, where it's I'd really like to see us make our best effort to get out of the 35 buffer zone. That being said, I'm going to just pass it along to other members to see what other kind of comments or questions there are out there, and then we'll get back to this.
Okay.
So I'll start with Ann.
I share the same concern, and we're talking about a narrow, it looks like a narrow width, I can't really tell, into the zone there. And yet there's obviously some space a little further over for the patio, next to the patio. There's a break there.
Right.
So, it looks like it was a possibility. Of course, you're not the architect, so it's hard for you to respond to that. But I agree that if there was some way to do that, as we have seen, we were able to get that done with our other project that we just approved tonight. That that would take care of that 35. Get them on that zone there. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm of a similar mind. I feel like I really don't like it pushing into the 35 foot, and if there's any way we could push it away from it, maybe put it on the other side of the building. Like Ann said, I'm not the architect. I don't know what other options were looked at. But I want to know that at the very least, other options were explored before we go waiving this.
Okay.
Yeah. What is the topography there? Is it pretty flat?
It's pretty flat. Yeah, there's not. I mean, well, I usually call it pit mount topography, where it's really a surface grading. It's not going to have any significant change in the contours as it pitches stormwater, and not a lot of earth disturbance.
Okay.
It's a very flat grade.
Chelsea, did you have any other questions?
Sorry. No, I didn't.
Okay, Michael, any questions?
Yeah, the proposed addition, is that at one level?
That I don't. Jason, are you available to answer that?
Yes, that's just continuing on the single level house.
Yeah. So why can't that, whether it's aesthetic, why can't that addition be stepped back to where the patio is? That would take you out of the 35 entirely.
If we step that over, that would encroach into the kitchen area where there wouldn't be any access to that new part of the house.
I don't follow. What do you mean?
It wouldn't work with the construction of the existing house.
How is that? There's a door there or something?
Well, we're creating a door through the third bedroom, which is a small bedroom, now a laundry room. And if I moved the addition over, I wouldn't be able to use that room for access. And like I said, it would pretty much cover up the kitchen on the backside, and I can't relocate that window.
What does that mean, cover up the kitchen?
There's a kitchen. The only lighting I have in the back of the house is that kitchen window, and it would end up covering that window.
Where's the window?
You see that little semicircle there, Mike? Yeah.
Well, what's the distance between?
It's about 3 feet.
And and how far are you into you're 3 feet into the no disturb, the no build?
It would be like 32 feet versus 35 feet. So it'd be 3 feet encroachment in terms of linear distance.
But I mean, if you're doing construction, we did an addition and we moved the 2 windows for those kinds of reasons. I mean, there's things that can be done.
Right. There was a new kitchen put in a couple of years ago, though, and we're not redoing that kitchen.
All right. Well, I'd like to see that out of the 35. I'd also want. How is it? There's a shed in the no disturb. How does that happen? Is that old?
That's been there since before I bought the house.
Yep. These again, yeah, existing non-conforming.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. That's it for my questions.
Less than 120 square feet, anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, Vanessa.
I'm on the same page as all the other commission members that have spoken, and I don't have anything additional.
Okay. Now that being said, I think 2 things. I think the sentiment isn't there right now to issue a waiver. So our next meeting, Georgia, is when? The 28th?
Correct.
So we're meeting in 2 weeks. So do you think, and members, I'm hoping that you're with me on this, if we could get out there and just see the piece of property some day on a weekend and just get a feel for the neighborhood and what the actual layout looks like there, and maybe the layout of the house. We're really trying to press you, Jason, to come up with an alternative. So we're going to give you time. We're probably going to vote to continue this hearing tonight, and we'd like to get out there for a site visit, or at least I would, and I'm presuming the other members of the board would as well.
Yeah,
I would as well.
yeah, I do too.
Okay. Is that okay with the applicant and Dave?
Fair enough.
Okay. Okay, so I guess right now what we're going to do is we're going to just vote to continue the hearing to our next meeting, which would be on the 28th. And I'm going to ask Georgia, do you think you could organize a site visit for us? I don't know if this weekend's probably too close, but maybe next weekend?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so we'll leave that in George's hands to organize a site visit. And I would say if I could have a motion to continue the hearing until our January 28th meeting would be good.
Do we have to close the session?
We're continuing.
We're continuing.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing for 17 Dartmouth Street, file number 14-1357, for the next commission meeting on January 28th.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, so this will be continued till then, and Georgia will coordinate a site visit time with us, hopefully for sometime next weekend, and we'll get to see you folks in person then.
Great. The one comment that I know the last site visit we had was on a Saturday. I typically have Saturday conflicts. Sunday would be preferred. I don't know if that conflicts with members, but I just wanted to.
I'll throw the date out first, David.
I'd be okay with a Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, this shouldn't take long. So
I'm good with the Sunday as well.
No, yeah, I'd like to be in attendance, and I typically have conflicts on Saturdays and Sundays. The better of the 2 days for me.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll work with the applicant. We'll coordinate the site visit, and I'll see if we can get some answers on architectural renderings.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, next up is minutes. The quick review of the SharePoint today. I didn't see any minutes. Is that correct, Georgia?
That's correct. No minutes have been uploaded yet. I think for the meeting on the 28th, we should have a few to review.
Okay. Okay, is there any new or old business that we need to discuss?
Nothing that I have. No news is good news.
Okay, and the 28th, we have some discussion on, what's the name of that development?
Beaver Brook will
Okay.
be on the agenda for an administrative discussion of Lot 8.
And we continued one from tonight, right?
We continued one from tonight, and I think we have a certificate of compliance request for 10 Riverside on the 28th as well. And I believe, I think that's it so far.
Okay, and just a shout out to Vanessa. When we discussed this lot, that Lot 8 at the Beaver Brook development, you had a lot of the good pertinent questions. So I'm just hoping you're ready to go at this hearing. You know the stuff. Okay, that being said, if there's a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor? Vanessa?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yep.
Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Peter? Yes. Okay, that concludes our meeting for this evening.
Great job, everyone.
Okay.